Hey fellas! Whether you are interested in gaming or you absolutely loathe their influence on society, I think this is something you might be interested in. There have been a lot of articles lately that have been talking about kids spending way too much money in video games. Most of the time they're EA games, maybe an Activision game sometimes, and maybe you don't understand what either of those are. Those are gaming companies, if you're unsure. Most of you probably will be sure, but I've just been growingly interested in this topic, and I just kind of wanted to explore the situation, and why this matters, and what the problem is, and who should be blamed. So we're just going to take a look at one specific situation. Here we have four children. Four children in this one family spent over $500. $500 on, I think it was just one game. FIFA is a soccer game that is very popular, made by EA. And a Mr. What's his name? Mr. Thomas Carter has four children. And one day, Thomas Carter was feeling nice for his children. Actually, I can't speak for him. Maybe he's loathing them. I can't tell you what he's thinking. But he decides to spend $8 for a pack that could possibly contain a character, a player, for this soccer game. Now, we'll get into the packs themselves in a minute, but he spent $8, and what he hadn't realized is his children saw him spend this money, and they saw how he did it. So, over the next 3 weeks, these kids spent over $550, and the Switch has now been confiscated indefinitely. Now, to add some closure while we're at the beginning, Nintendo did refund all the money, and the players that the kids had bought, all the packs, were taken off the system. They were taken back, even though they're digital goods. So things were made right. Nintendo refused to respond to, or they refused to make a comment about the situation. So the kids are all under the age of 10. They kind of have a mask of innocence. By the age of 10, you should really know what you're doing and what's wrong, what you should and should not do. Here's the thing. Poor Mr. Carter, he admits he didn't take full precautions for this. He did not limit the Nintendo account. He didn't make sure the credit or debit card information was not saved on the account. Him and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, had no idea that this had happened until their debit card was declined. So, there is a mess of things that are wrong here with Mr. Carter's management of the situation before the situation really existed. He did not limit the account. He left the card information on the account. He did not put a PIN on the account. And he did not check his bank account. His email inbox was full, so he didn't get any emails about the purchases. And these are just a big conglomeration of failure. How do you not check your bank account? First off, okay, I check that thing religiously, to be honest. Like, if I go like 2 or 3 days without checking it, I'm frantic. I need to check it. So they didn't see any purchases that weren't supposed to be there. But there's another side to this. There's the EA, the game developer side of this. EA has set up their games where you can buy what's called loot boxes. And in these loot boxes, you pay money for a chance to get a bunch of really awesome items that you couldn't access otherwise just from owning the game. So that includes, in this game, players. I'm sure it contains uniforms. I don't know FIFA very well. I'm not the play sports on the console kind of guy. I don't really play sports in any form, really, but that's not the point. EA makes you pay for stuff that you don't really know what's going to come out of it. And that is like basically the definition of gambling. And that's an issue that people have been pointing out lately, is the fact that video games can lead people into gambling. It could be the start of an addiction, which is an issue. Addictions are bad. You don't want to get stuck in an addiction. So, who's at fault here? Who's at fault with this problem? At the beginning of this video, I mentioned whether you are interested in gaming or you loathe its influence, you might be interested. So from both of these standpoints, who's at fault? You have gamers who will generally try to be in defense of game developers. EA is an iffy situation because they've made horrible decisions like these loot boxes in the past. The general rule for me is if a loot box is only cosmetic, if it's like the clothes your character wears or like the colors of things, just cosmetic stuff, then loot boxes are fine. You can pay money for a chance to get something cool that looks cool, but when it affects gameplay, when paying for something makes you have an advantage over other players, that's where it's not okay for me. And it's already really iffy because, again, it's like gambling, essentially. So they have that side. The gamers would be in defense of the developer. Now, people who do not understand video games, do not like video games, and think that they are just like a Prince Harry, is it? He said, specifically about the game Fortnite, which has been very popular lately, that it was designed to addict, that it was a problem. There's a dog over there that is wailing. They're only distracting the youth. I don't agree with this. I see the viewpoint though, because media has a massive influence. For a reference, let me pull up some information here really quick. And this is how big the gaming industry is compared to the film industry. The film industry in 2018 racked in $41.7 billion in the box office. That's a huge number. But video games in a whole ranked nearly at $140 billion total. That's a big difference. And this shows you how much of an influence gaming can be. Now, there is a problem on both sides here, because, like I was saying, poor Mr. Carter, he did not have his ducks in a row. He didn't have his stuff organized together. He didn't take the precautions he needs to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. What do you guys think? Is the gaming industry at fault? Or is poor Mr. Carter at fault? For me personally, I think both are at fault. I think more so, companies are less likely to change than we are, though. So, to combat when we're letting our kids play games, or whether we're playing games, we have to make sure that we take the precautions. Don't be like poor Mr. Carter. Check your bank account. You know, clear out your inbox. It's like voicemails. People who don't clear their voicemail inbox drive me nuts, okay? Voicemails are like the only thing I use to determine whether a call is important, other than my caller ID saying it's a friend or a family member. Or Sprint. If Sprint calls me, I don't answer. Leave me alone, Sprint. Let me know what you guys think. I don't have a way to end this video, but I will say that this is part of a little personal experiment of mine. My goal is to film short videos solely on an iPhone and edit them only on the iPhone, and make short and concise videos that aren't bloated. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Sincerely, farewell.